Although I'm taking an enormous risk, potentially dividing our congregation into subcategories that you may never live down, I want to ask you a question this morning. If you are a Mac user, will you please raise your hand? Take a look around. Take a look around. Find your family. Okay, thank you. I've been learning about you. You are a proud people, I'm told, this Mac family, who, when considering a computer for your home or office, are not plagued with questions of RAM and processors and hard drive connectivity and software choices. You have a pretty simple decision. Do I want a laptop or a desktop? Because Apple has made all of those difficult decisions for you. I mean, they're the computer guys, right? So the most important thing is to be able to turn it on right out of the box and have it just work, right? Now, I can't believe that I'm not a Mac user. It's actually my nature to want to just open something out of the box and have it work. I don't like to read the directions or the manual. But I am a PC user. Now, I must say I'm a reluctant PC user because I've been tempted to cross over to the other side on several occasions. My iPod especially made it tempting. My iShuffle now, which is big as my pinky, has made it tempting. And especially after my current experience owning a laptop with Vista. Can I see the apprehensive Vista users in the, yeah, because the rest of you went back to XP, didn't you? I am what they call a dangerous PC user. Over the years, likely because of my age and school system, I learned on a PC first, right? As we progressed from floppy drives the size of my head to CD drives and USB. But I never had a Mac lab in school. So by necessity of my situation, I have learned exactly enough about PCs and IBM-compatible operating systems to get me in trouble. Just enough to get me out of many of the little pickles I managed to get myself into, but most of them are, in fact, way over my head. Now, I want to make the most of my computing experience by having more software applications to run and by having the possibility of manipulating the data in various ways. And I have these habits. I know how to run a disk cleanup and a defrag. And I can organize with Windows Explorer. Now let me warn you, this may in fact be the geekiest sermon I have ever written. So hold on. But I have spent some time on a Mac in various places. I find myself frustrated very quickly with my habitual right-clicking when I'm using a Mac. The resize button is on the wrong side. You get the picture. And yet I love what Macs can do. From the baseline that they create, you can actually learn how to do way more than on a PC. It kind of doesn't force you, like a PC does, to learn a brand new language in order to keep up. So with the Mac, you can do website design and music editing and photo and video editing without having to learn all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So why haven't I switched? Why am I hanging on to a PC whose operating system I loathe? Vista has been about like learning a brand new system, just about. The least intuitive, supposedly intuitive system I have ever used. But it's interesting because it's not my loyalty to PCs that keeps me there. Mac users are definitely loyal. It's just that I'm already fairly competent within this framework of this system. I speak PC. So when I need help, I can get it. And believe me, I've spent hours online with technical departments of various IBM-compatible companies. My favorite question is, ma'am, would you please double-check that the computer's power cord is plugged into the outlet? But I can get around the PC world. But what if it's holding me back for creating something new? Seriously, I've learned this entire set of skills that outside the IBM-compatible world are completely and totally useless. It's like I speak Latin and they're the only people who can help me keep my language alive. And I assume that I keep buying PCs because it's familiar, which is kind of ridiculous. I keep buying a PC because my first computer was a PC, and that argument works nowhere else in my life. I'm a tad rebellious, so the whole Mac computer cult lifestyle, although intriguing, also keeps me from switching for fear of losing something, being brainwashed in some way. For example, I'd be worried if I bought a Mac. Did I really make that choice myself, or did those cute ads with the dorky PC guy and the hip, artistic, cultural, creative-looking dude change my mind? And then, of course, there's that rumor that if you go Mac, you'll never go back. It's a little frightening for me, right? Either or has never worked for me very well, and even though in some settings among friends I am completely outnumbered by Mac users, I just want to be sure. Now, I also felt a bit outnumbered at a recent event at the church that I want to tell you about. Maybe you read about it in the parish notes. I was at a dinner recently here, surrounded by some familiar faces and a few newer members whom I did not know as well. We took the opportunity to go around the room and talk about how we'd arrived at All Souls. It was a gathering of about 16 people, and as we went around, one person spoke up and said that they were an atheist. And from then on, it seemed most everyone at the table also mentioned that they too were an atheist. I have to tell you, I was quite surprised, and so were the newer members. One member had brought his mom with him, and it was the first event at the church she had ever attended. And I'm not sure that this dinner helped quell any of her fears about what her son was getting into. What was intriguing to me is that even though they were all using the word atheist, because I happened to have some context for who they were, some context for their lives and their history, and because I had heard them discuss their beliefs before, I knew that the word atheist meant something different to each and every person that used that term that evening. But see, we didn't have the opportunity to have that theological discussion. So most people, I believe, walked away thinking that they all believed the same thing, which is too bad. Because I think the conversation about belief is actually more important. And I think the word needs some context in order to be meaningful. Now, in his new book, Good Without God, Harvard's humanist chaplain Greg Epstein makes a distinction that I believe is critical. He writes, "So many smart people still think that a conversation about what is true and meaningful and worthwhile in life begins with the question, do you believe in God? But do you believe in God is a totally meaningless question. The real question all people, whether secular or religious, ought to be asking themselves and one another is, what do you believe about God?" My guess is that if there had been some opportunity for us to have had that conversation around that All Souls dinner table, that we would have found more in common than divides us.